Hello yet again. I'm back again. I'm like Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, back again. I hope that this time it will be a stable, strong and stable connection. Like Theresa May's government, strong and stable. I don't know if anyone's joining, but if anyone is, it says naught naught. So the second coming, here we are, Matt Grant. Matt Grant, who was very good at quizzes. Matt Grant is very good. Hello, Keeley. Mr. Balding, take two. Yes, hope you're well too. Yes, I'm very, very sorry. It's to do with something to do with this YouTube. I think I don't think it's actually the internet because the internet is strong and stable, but the YouTube somehow has a problem. This YouTube is a very strange system. I wish I had a better system. There is a thing called StreamYard, but I don't know how one does it so it goes to the YouTube. But if somebody has some technical knowledge, perhaps they could help. But frankly, there we are. So anyway, you're all coming back. So cheers to you and cheers to me and cheers to YouTube if it disagrees. But there we go. So yes, today has been a bit of an adventure up into the hills in the mist. It was like gorillas in the mist. Yes, off we went. Fog lights and all. So, yes, accidents on the road and mud and sand everywhere. And, in a small little Audi car, a little Audi TT car, which is driven all the way from England, acquired at minimal cost and has performed wonderfully considering the tasks it's been put through, driving up dirt track roads and all the rest of it. So, yes, we got to this house, a very fine house it was too, and owned by some lovely Dutch people, and they're great fun and very, very pleasant, very down to earth. And we got to the first gate, which was a very grand gate, and it opened, and we got to the second gate, which was about half a mile up the road, and that opened. So we had a very easy ride in. I'll come to what happened on the way out, which was a disaster. You thankfully can't see it, but my white shirt is not exactly completely white anymore, but we'll come to that after. And yes, we had a lovely lunch in the hills. So a 5-course lunch in the kitchen of a beautiful house with fantastic artwork and lots of an amazing collection of books that had been left by the previous owner. The owners bought the house with the books and all sorts of other things. And, they showed us pictures of what the view was like. Unfortunately, it rained and the mist was there, so we never got to see the view. We couldn't even see as far as their swimming pool at one point, and such as third world problems and all that. But we did have a wonderful lunch, and I did try out my quizzes that I had photographs of on the phone on them, and they did reasonably well. Considering they're Dutch, they don't know anything about England, and well, they go to England, but they didn't know the English questions. So it was interesting to get a different perspective, and they're going to contribute some Dutch questions to add to the quiz. So perhaps if any of you have ideas for questions for the quiz, you might like to email them to editorial@thesteepletimes.com, because we could. I would like to add an international angle, and many of you are from Australia, and you're from Ireland, and you're from Italy and Germany and wherever else. So we could have a few more interesting questions, which could be added to future quizzes. Yes, all sorts of you. So yes, everybody in the chat, hello to you all. Right, there's over 50 of you here already. So I'm very sorry I arrived late. I'm very sorry the first time didn't work, but it was quite an expedition today. And as regards the little bird, Minnie Thatcher was very naughty this morning. Minnie Thatcher decided to run away. Minnie Thatcher has been a very naughty, naughty, naughty little girl, and ran away. And I don't know how it got out or where it went, this little bird is quite like Margaret Thatcher. It's quite determined to do whatever it wants, and it will do whatever it wants, and that's fair enough. But it can't fly, and it can't feed itself, and the other birds keep trying to attack it. So, it had safe shelter where it was, and everybody agreed in the community, the gardeners and the guardians who look after the street, who kindly said, um, you know, you're doing the right thing, keeping it with shelter where it's safe. And there's a fence around the garden. It can go in and out through the hedge from between the garden of this house and the adjoining one. That's its way of escape. But, when it's being fed, and it was fed last night, and it was given plenty of food, and it has the Pellegrino, it's a Pellegrino bird. It's a very smart bird in terms of what type of water it gets to drink. I've heard of lots of people feeding their dogs, sort of giving their dogs mineral water. It's a bit excessive, but in the case of this poor injured bird, well, I don't know if it's injured, but it doesn't seem to be able to do much with one of its wings. So I thought, a bit of mineral might do it some good. So, and I buy lots of mineral water. It's very, very cheap to buy Pellegrino. It's like €3 for 6 bottles. So it's no problem that I share my Pellegrino with it. And it seems to like the Pellegrino. So I'm not being extravagant. I am a little. It's had my chicken soup that it took me 4 hours to make. It's getting more of the chicken soup than we are the humans. It seems to like that. And I will tomorrow get it more dog food. But there we go. My godmother in America, who was from a very famous family, she tended to feed her dog caviar pie, which I thought was totally ridiculous. And that's a story for another time. But I think I may have already told you the story of the caviar pie. I did it for Radio 4, and what happened with her was she lived in San Francisco, and I'll briefly tell you the story. She decided to buy an apartment in San Francisco. She didn't come from San Francisco, and it was a penthouse in Pacific Heights. And when the earthquake happened in I think it was 1989, I may be the wrong year. She'd been out and bought her caviar pie for Nikki, the dog, and Nikki and her were in the lift, and of course the earthquake hit, and nobody knew she was in the lift, and the electrics went off, and she was there for 4 days, and all she had was caviar and champagne. That's caviar pie and champagne. That's what she survived on. She will never go in a lift again. She's terrified of lifts, but she's terrified of most things. She's a little eccentric. Every year, she gets to go. This Greyhound bus heiress is basically what she is. So I'm not saying her name, but anyway, she got an allowance for a new Rolls Royce. So in San Francisco, she would go to the dealership. I think Van Ness Avenue or somewhere. I think it is. I've been with her on one occasion. I witnessed this nonsense going on. I could see what the dealer was up to. Whichever car Nikki ran to, she would buy. That was and obviously the dealer was putting ham and things in the cars and leaving the doors open. The most expensive car. So that was the eccentricity of this particular lady. But Radio 4 loved the story of the caviar pie surviving an earthquake with caviar pie made for a dog. It's completely bonkers, but there we go. So meanwhile, this little mini Thatcher vanished, gone. So I took all the bowls away, and I put them in the dishwasher, and thinking it's gone for good. Well, we returned just an hour ago, and I get out of the car. What is sitting on the front doorstep? This is not the door behind me. This is a different door. So it's been around and been all over the place because it can't get through any other way. It must have walked all the way around the street, but it came back. Minnie Thatcher came back, and there it was, sitting there, patiently waiting, expecting to be fed. And it will want more later, I'm sure, which it will get, because we have plenty of this soup. So, Yes, so Minnie Thatcher came back. Well, Minnie Min, I opened the car door to let her out, and that's when I noticed. Well, she decided to call it over, which was not a good idea. So little Minnie Thatcher leapt in the Audi TT, thinking, it's Sterling Moss, and it wanted to drive, and then had a pop at her trousers. So its beak did a bit of biting at the trousers. So fortunately, I did not touch it because we don't want to touch the bird, because you mustn't touch the birds when they are on the ground or any kind of wildlife, because then they get rejected by the adult birds. So fortunately, with a bit of encouragement, it leapt out, and then it chased its way straight through the house and back into the little garden, and it's gone through the hedge, and now it's having its little dinner, and it's probably behaving itself. I hope it's behaving itself. But the lesson to the little Minnie Thatcher is, don't run away from the people who look after you, because if you ran away, you won't be getting any more food, will you? Because we thought you'd gone, but you're back again. So anyway, we love the little bird, and we want it to be happy. So there we go. I'll put down some. We don't need to water the garden tonight. I'll put down some cat spray. I'm told by the people I visited, cat spray is. I don't know, audience, what do you think of cat spray in gardens? Does it work, or is it a complete waste of time? The Dutch people told me they'd tried it, and it's a complete disaster area. This nasty little cat here, who I should give it a name. I don't know. In the Archers, they have one called Hilda Ogden. And, after the Coronation Street person. And, it's nasty, this cat that comes here. It digs up, it's destroying all the plants. It's a nightmare. It's just trying to destroy all the lawn that we've worked so hard on. The gardener came and did the lawn this morning. He's a nice, hard-working man from the Gard Freenet. Yes, Minnie Thatcher knows she has a good home. Well, so says Nicola Mooney, yes. But what do you think of the cat spray? Orange peel stops cats doing things. It's not about that. It's about them digging up. It likes digging it up, this horrible cat. It's a very nasty cat. It did belong to somebody who lived here, and they said that they've moved to a flat and they don't want it, so they just left it. And it's not a nice cat. Some cats are very pleasant. In the past, once when a friend went away, she said, would I come and look after her cats for a few days? And I got on very well. And today, the people had beautiful St. Bernard dogs, lovely dogs, mountain dogs. And they said, well, they don't really take to most people, so we'll let them out gradually. And they immediately came to me, and they sat with me for the whole lunch. And they were wonderful dogs, and I got on very well with them. Jane S. Yorks, I've got a mad cat, yes. I've no problem with cats, but I don't need this cat digging up all the gardening, because we've put a lot of effort into this gardening. It's been a huge project, and we keep gardening. Mrs. Howard's Way says to me, the one who lives on the boat, she says, it's like having an English cottage garden in the middle of the south of France. And that's what we have. It's a tiny garden. It's not like where we went today. They have 36 acres of woodland and gardens and all the rest. And, where they lived was fabulous and very nice. But you wouldn't want to be driving on that road in the middle of a snowstorm, that's for sure. And they have all sorts of problems with water up there and things like that. But a lovely, lovely house. So there we go. You like cats but prefer dogs, says Jane O'Keefe. Well, I tend to agree with you, Jane O'Keefe. I do prefer dogs to cats. But name the cat Scylla. Okay, well, the cat's now called Scylla, or we can call it Scylla White, because it's a white cat. Because obviously her real name was Priscilla White. So it's Scylla White. That's what we're going to call the horrible cat with blue eyes. It's got these very vivid blue eyes, and it's got the look of evil in it. There's something not nice about that cat, because it loves destroying any plants, especially the yellow plants. It seems anything that's yellow, it seems to particularly have a vitriol against. And obviously this lady has left it, and it comes back, and it just it's got nothing to do with us, and I don't want. I'm not going to be cruel to it, but I just don't want it around. It's just a nuisance. So Jane says her cat loathes the postman. He won't come down the driveway. Well, there you go. These cats can be vicious. In the Archers, Hilda Ogden, everybody hates the cat, and the lady that owned it has just died, and I don't know what they'll do with the cat. Be interesting storyline. I think in the Archers will be the cat. It's not only Alice's drinking that will be coming up again; it'll be the cat. No, they all dislike the cat. Yes, well, it's now named Silhouette. Okay, the cat is Silhouette, and we've got Minnie Thatcher, the little bird. I'm surprised it hasn't come back inside. It seems to like being in here, and the Keith of the Penelope and Keith has taken to coming inside also. If I leave this door open in the mornings, if it's not being given its cakes, because it only seems to like cakes now, it won't eat bread. It's gone off bread. It's very particular, is that Keith. It's ridiculous, really. This cat, this Seagull male, does not like bread anymore. It likes cakes, and it likes crisps. It likes salt and vinegar crisps, and it likes that. It does not like fruit. It doesn't like vegetables. It doesn't like lettuce or anything like that. Salad things. It doesn't like anything other than cakes, and it would probably eat the chicken soup, but it's not going to be given the chicken soup because that's now for the preserve of the little Minnie Thatchers. There you go. Here I am banging on about my weird antics with wildlife in the middle of like a Coronation Street type setting in Saint-Tropez. It's a row of terraced houses with boats, and there's a lovely boat that's like a Reaver boat that's arrived today. They've got the European flag on it. They're very, very patriotic. They had the European flag in their garden earlier as well. The Croatian boat has been returned, but the Croatians have left, so I don't know what's going on with them. And the people with the very fancy rubber dinghy that cost about £80,000 with 2 engines, according to my yachting expert friend, they've gone back to Paris. So theirs is all moored up, and the Seagulls are taking up occupation, which is not going to be good for their boat. But there we are. What does a seagull drink out of? A beaker. There you go. That's a good joke. Denise Richards, what a good joke. My seagull drinks Pellegrinos. So there you go. It's not a joke, but there we are. The Coronation Street of the south of France, precisely. But I much prefer the places in the hills, to be honest, because I like the remoteness of these remote places and how you can just hide away. And where we went today, it was lovely because, you don't have any neighbors. You don't have anybody pestering you. Here, there's parking issues and all the rest. There's lots of lovely people, but, I met some French people on the way back and who we called in at the local hostelry. I was forced to. I didn't want to. I was going to come on this program on time, which I didn't manage because of such. And, they're very, very nice people, and we'll have them round and have a little beverage with them and a good chat because they're French people who speak English as well. So it's quite nice having that because I'm useless with French. I pick up the odd word and I'm trying, and the man in the bar is learning English from me and I'm learning French from him. So thank you to Mr. Gorst, my school teacher, who often comes on here, the French teacher, because he always berated me for my lack of enthusiasm for the French language. But there we go. So cheers to Mr. Gorse, a great man, a lovely French teacher. He won't be here today, I'm sure, but he comes in occasionally. And it's very nice to keep in touch with school teachers, I do think. And he's probably the only one that actually bothers with me. But, it's nice to keep in touch with. As my Granny Steeples once said, make new friends, but keep the older silver, the newer gold. Sorry, the old Make new friends, but keep the old. The new are silver, the old are gold. That is how Granny Steeples, and I quote that one quite often. I think that's a good thing to live your life by. Well, Mr. Gorse can be a little bit difficult at times, yes, but I don't know. He's quite opinionated, but I don't think I ever told him that. But there we go. Right. Okay. So we've got over 100 of you here. Have we any questions to begin? Let's begin with a few questions from you. Let's talk about whatever you want to talk about first. Let's have some questions. How is Lady Min falling asleep? A 5-course lunch was a little bit too much for her, and she didn't eat all of it, but she did try. So she did eat most of it, but not the latter courses, put it that way. Right. Should I be an expert on French polishing? No, I don't do furniture stuff. No, I'm not. I'd be useless with anything to do with domesticity of that type. I deal with lots of domesticity, I can assure you, but I don't think it's appropriate to discuss the type of domesticity because it's not very pleasant. Right. Did I read about Greta Thunberg setting off on the sailing yacht into Gaza? The Freedom Flotilla, asks TMTB. I haven't really had chance to read a newspaper today because there's been lots of drama prior to our going to the Godfrey, and then obviously we've been away. So, but I have read about Greta Thunberg, Grim Greta. I can't stand the woman or girl or whatever you want to call her. She's a complete pest. The only thing she ever got right was to start a row with Andrew Tate, who was revolting. But Grim Greta has gone from environmental pest. Look, some of what she believes is correct, and some of what she says is right, and she has a right to an opinion. But she's just a person who has been provoked by her fame-hungry, revolting parents. You know, it's another Julia Wandel. She was a child who got put into this situation, and then all these famous people encouraged her, including, and I will criticize the king for this, King Charles shouldn't have bothered with her, but of course King Charles likes all this environmental stuff, and that's fair enough. He likes his environmental stuff, but encouraging Grim Greta is not something that I agree with. I don't like that little brat. She's a nuisance. And what she's doing with this stupid boat, harassing situations that she has no need to get involved in. You know, she's not Jewish. She's not Palestinian. She should keep out of it. She's a pest. Petulant little pest is that little Grim Greta. Don't like her. Do you like Grim Greta? Okay, audience. Do you like or dislike Greta Doomsberg? Yes, she is a bit of a moaner, isn't she? Nothing is ever positive with Grim. She is a Grim. You know, there was a couple I knew in Broadstairs. All they ever did was moan about everything. I called them Grim and Grimmer. People would go when they wore matching anoraks. They were very, very rude people. And Grim and Grimmer, when they walked into the bar, it was like, oh, God, here's them. Because you never knew what they were going to be moaning about next. He was not so bad when he was on his own. She was just awful, nasty, and very unpleasant. They're the only two people I really don't... I'll be glad never to see again from Broadstairs. But you know, everybody else there, wonderful, wonderful people, absolutely fabulous. And, you know, I can't criticize such a joy to have such lovely people around me as I did there. But, yeah, the matching anoraks, and they were into cruise boats. They were always off on a cruise. So cruising was a big thing for them. And once they said, we hear you're having a dinner party. And I said, yes. And they said, we will be attending. I don't know what happened to me. I'm normally quite vocal. I just said, oh, yes, okay. They said, we only drink wine that begins at £10 a bottle. I thought I've never ever encountered something like this before. Not that I don't mind people drinking wine that costs £10 a bottle or £5 a bottle. The wine I drink here, I can get really good wine for €4. It's absolutely fine. It's perfect. It's perfectly drinkable, everyday, quaffable stuff. But these two they only wanted wine that began at £10. This was him speaking on this occasion. He was the one who went on about the wine. Oh, he was a bit of a know-all about wine. So I purposely bought some £5 a bottle wine and put it in a £10 a bottle wine that I'd already drunk, bottled, and served it to them. They didn't even notice. They didn't even have a clue. So everybody else got different wine, but they got their special bottle, and they didn't even know. So I thought that was an appropriate punishment for them. And did they ever invite me to dinner at their house? No. They did bring some very nice wine, I will admit. That was nice of them. They brought one bottle between the two of them. The rest of the residents of Broadstairs, whenever they came to dinner, I don't know what it was about Broadstairs, but even Min has commented on this. They always brought me a bottle of wine and a bottle of gin. They were unbelievably generous. And today we took some wine and we took flowers from the garden. We took some flowers that I cut because she wanted them to be done that way, and rather than going to a garden centre, we took our own. But quite frankly, when you go to someone's house who's got 36 acres of gardens and woodland and flowers, and it was a bit ridiculous to be taking them flowers in my view, but I think we should have taken something else. But it didn't matter. They were very appreciative, and it went on their kitchen table, and that's that. So it was a gesture, and I think when you go to someone's house, you should take something pleasant. And, even if you can't afford much, you take something nice. It doesn't matter. But the people of Broadstairs always brought me a bottle of gin. I thought it was fabulous. So I was quite impressed by this. And they'd bring a bottle of wine and a bottle of gin, most of them. But I never asked for it and would never dream of asking. According to a survey by Waitrose recently, before Christmas, people now prefer it if you bring olive oil, because olive oil is so expensive. Most people don't like the wine that they're brought because, people have different tastes. So they don't ever get around to drinking this wine, or they take it to the next party, of course, gift recycling. I don't know if you're all into that, but there we are. Olive oil supposedly is a gift of choice now for dinner parties, but people don't have dinner parties as such. They have kitchen table suppers, a bit like David Cameron, for example. He became famous for his kitchen table suppers, as did the SDP, the Liberal Democrat precursors. They were known for the kitchen table cabinets. And on Saturday or Sunday it was, Saturday or Sunday, I listened to Jay Rayner, and they were talking about, what to do with the bottle of Prosecco, because I don't really care for Prosecco myself. What would you do with the Prosecco that you don't want? There was a question. People always bring me Prosecco, said this lady, and I don't like Prosecco. And they gave all sorts of ideas as to what you could do with it. You could make a Prosecco risotto or something like that. So, yeah, that was a nice question. And I enjoyed the answers of what you could do with Prosecco if you don't like Prosecco. But obviously, regifting can be a dangerous thing because you can end up giving it back to the person who gave it to you. But with a bottle of wine, they may think, oh, you love that wine, and so do we. But you never know. So that's an interesting angle. You make soup with it. Okay. You use avocado oil. Oh, yes. The person who came and who brought the drink and then took it away with them. Yes. That was an interesting one. We haven't heard from them again. No. Well, they have never invited back. So, well, I'm not really bothered because, quite frankly, I thought that their behavior was a little odd. To go to someone's house and then take it away, it's a little odd. We didn't drink it, so we'll take it home with us. I thought that was a very odd thing. You like coconut oil? You like prawn risotto? Well, you could put some prosecco in your prawn risotto. What am I drinking tonight? At the moment, I'm just having a glass of French wine, cheap. Well, not cheap because it comes from the expensive local shop, which overcharges for everything, but is a lovely local convenience. And frankly, we had nowhere else to go on the way back after our little expedition. So there we go. Yes, on the way back on my expedition, unfortunately, the orange jacket is the lovely orange jacket gifted to me by my friend Sean Christopher, a wonderful tailor. The gates wouldn't open, so I had to climb up a tree to get over the fence to try and get the gates to open. And of course, all this black stuff went all over the jacket, so from the tree and all the damp. So anyway, it'll go to the dry cleaner and it'll be okay. So it's not the end of the world. But yes, it's surprising. My white shirt didn't suffer as much, and my white trousers even less so. So unfortunately, the jacket got it. I should have taken off the jacket before I stupidly ventured to try and, because the electric gates wouldn't open because there was some problem with the system. So unfortunately, the owner then had to come and let me out. But anyway, I looked like I'd been dragged through a hedge at that point. So there we go. But anyway, yes, but we've got the Seagull. We had a lovely lunch, and that was that. So you're having a rosé, says Elaine. Okay, well, rosé is something that they French always say yes to. They always say, oui, yes, have a rosé. There are lots of rosés made around here. Minuti, Chateau Lube, which is the Bamford wine, the JCB lot. There's Miraval, the one that's causing a lot of contention with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie at war, that crazy couple. Yes, there's lots of those. Have I ever been in the middle of Lidl? I've been to a Lidl. I think it's a very useful shop. They produce lots of good gin. In fact, they often win awards for their gin, and as does Aldi. They're both very good shops, but not here in France. But there is one, but I haven't been to it here. I suppose I should pay a visit. It might be an interesting expedition to go to a Lidl or an Aldi or whatever they have here. I can't remember which one they have near here, but there is one, and I've been past it, but I've never been in it. Not for any reason. It's just it's not very convenient. It's not the local casino, which was what it used to be called. It's now called something else. GM Casino was its name, but it changed its name. That one is very convenient, and it has this very good Pickpool wine that's €5 a bottle, and that's perfect for us. So we like that. It's much better than paying €10 in the local shop, but we like to support the local shop because he's a lovely man. So you have to have a bit of both. So a bit of balance. Right, you get everything delivered. I don't see many delivery trucks here, but I believe they have this click and collect. A Dutch lady who I met was telling me that's how she does all her shopping. She goes and orders it online, and then she just goes to this door at this casino, whatever it's called now, and the casino people come out and bring the shopping. So there you go. Which of the French cheeses do I like? I like all sorts of cheeses. I found in the Gard Frenet at the market the other day a wonderful cheese with chili. I thought that was fabulous. Very much enjoyed that. I have that in my chicken sandwiches from my roast chicken from Sunday. And right, it seems Angelina Jolie has turned 50. It just came up on a notification. We've summoned her up. She's turned 50, and she's got a different real name, but I don't know what it is. But I've never met Angelina Jolie, but she did a lot of work with William Hague, of course, if you remember. I'm told by the people who associated with her, she was actually an amazing lady and did very good work, but I don't know her myself, and I don't know the vineyard. I haven't been there, but You see the wines all over the place. They're very popular here, the Miravals. So anyway, there we are. Yes, it's been taken over by Intermarché, says the Blue Nomad, the casino. It's got a different name. I can't remember what it's called, but I suppose I could look at a receipt, but I haven't got one right in front of me right now. So I don't know what it was called. I don't know what it's called now, but it was called GM Casino, but it's not called that anymore. You thought that Miss Marple thinks that Angelina Jolie as Maria Callas was a good performance. You were quite surprised. You like a bit of gorgonzola, says Hatchy Hatchy. Go to the vineyard and sample free wine. Most of them don't give it away free here. Oh no! You have to pay for your. They do a wine flights, or what I think they're called. In California, they're called that anyway. I've done lots of that in Napa Valley. I've been on. I've been on the wine train there. That was interesting, and I've been to Opus One and all that out there, and oh yes, you don't get free wine. If they did that, everybody'd turn up. There'd be a queue around the block. So unfortunately, you have to pay for a little selection, and that's what happens here also mostly. Maybe at smaller vineyards in lesser known locations, they might be a little more generous. Miss Marple's friend has a vineyard in California. It's very beautiful. Well, the Californian vineyards are in a lovely area, the Sonoma, Napa valleys. Wonderful, wonderful places. Lovely restaurants like the French Laundry, which is one of the most lovely restaurants I think I've ever been to. I've been to many lovely restaurants, but it was a memorable meal and it was fabulous. So I very much enjoyed it. Expialidocious loved the Aldi vegetable bao buns, but they don't do them anymore. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. If that's what you loved, there we go. Leslie S., one of her friends, was a winemaker in Carmel. Carmel is a lovely place too, and sadly died of cancer. Well, that's very sad to hear. You personally go in and buy fruit and veg, but you have home deliveries. Elaine Bynes. Okay, well, I think it's good to support local retailers because then the farmer gets more money. It's better to support the smaller suppliers. Also, it's a good thing because if you don't support them, you lose it. So in Broadstairs, when I first arrived, there was a cheese shop. Nobody went there because they all go to the supermarket because there's a huge supermarket if you have a car. And then the cheese shop vanished, and that was the end of that. So, support your local retailer, otherwise use it or lose it, as they say. Denise Richards is all for supporting farmers. Of course, farmers are the lifeblood of our nation, and without farmers, you wouldn't have the beautiful British countryside. You wouldn't have hedgerows. You wouldn't have all the things you have. And, okay, some farmers are intensive, and there's a lot of debate about this rewilding, but farmers are the heroes of our nation, and you should support the farmer. Yes, there we go. Right, okay. Have we questions on another topic? What's my favoured wine? I do like a Chablis. I like Picpoul. I like quite dry wines. I don't like sweet wines. I'm not really a sweet wine person, though I do enjoy occasionally a sweet sherry, but I prefer a dry sherry. Mary Taylor likes roasted vegetables. Well, so do I. I made roast potatoes with goose fat on Sunday, so that was very nice. Leslie S. loves red wine, but it gives you a headache. Well, I think you're drinking the wrong type of red wine. Californian red wines and New World red wines tend to have more sulfites in them. Perhaps you should try wines from other parts of the world, because if you're drinking wines from there and that's giving you a headache, maybe it could be the problem. I'm not a doctor, but wines with less sulfites, such as French wines and Italian wines, could be better for you. You could try that, 'cause sulfites are not very good, in my view. Um, right. Right. Okay. Right. Well, yes, we've dealt with Greta. Greta is grim. I think that's the case. Harvey Weinstein is another one who's been whinging and whining. Um, Harvey Weinstein really is a man who should put a sock in it. I have had meetings with him before, long ago, when I worked for somebody who made a film with him, and I was involved in some of the meetings, and he was a very unpleasant man. But he's whining about how he wants revenge on his enemies and all the rest, and complaining about how he's fed peanut butter sandwiches and he can't cope with it. Oh dear. No more caviar for you, Harvey, and you're a bit fat. You were a bit fat anyway, so perhaps slimming down might actually solve some of your health problems that you're whining about to try and get out of prison. Maybe if you eat a little more healthfully, Harvey, it might be easier. If you eat some he's someone who should eat some vegetables rather than all the caviar and whatever else luxurious things he obviously consumed in his very, very wealthy life. The things he did to those poor ladies, absolutely appalling. And now he's whinging and whining and saying, he's not being treated fairly and he wants revenge. So I don't have any respect for Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein is a nasty, nasty man and not someone to celebrate. So I don't know. What do you think of Harvey Weinstein? Right. Any thoughts? I don't know if the little bird is threatening to come back or not, because I'm hearing noises. So, oh dear, it could end up coming inside, which that would then be chaos. Fortunately, the floors are porcelain, well, terracotta or whatever you call it. So, yes, Harvey Weinstein is a creep. He's a decrepit creature. He's a name I won't say. A criminal, a waste of skin, a wrong gun. He's a pesky varmint. Yes, he's horrible. Yes, I agree. I think every one of you has said the right thing. Yes, you're sitting on the fence. Elaine Bynes says I'm sitting on the fence. This you watched an interview with Candace. I think is that this Candace, whatever she's called. I've never watched a single one of her programs. She seems to get herself involved with all sorts of strange matters, doesn't she? I'm not particularly sure if I would want to be involved with her. But of course, somebody like Harvey Weinstein doesn't have many options, does Harvey? The casting couch is as old as Hollywood, and they all knew the score. Well, the man I worked for was a man who came up with the multiplex cinema. He came up with Sky Vodka. He funded film festivals. He was on the board of the Cannes Film Festival. He paid for a lot of films to be made, most of them very unsuccessful, other than the one that we made with Weinstein, which I was slightly involved in, not very majorly. It was called Hoodwinked. It was with Glenn Close, Anne Hathaway, Jim Belushi, Exhibit, and it was about Little Red Riding Hood being brought up to date, basically. And Granny did extreme sports. It was a cartoon, and it was good fun, the first one. But then Harvey and this man had a huge row, and that was that. So yes, this man also, he had a habit at these film festivals. He would always say to these young female people who were aspiring to be film producers, "Oh, come up to my apartment," and God knows only what went on, because obviously I wasn't present when this happened. But I remember going to a lunch on a boat, and there was this man Eli Roth who was just starting out, and he ended up working with Quentin Tarantino, and it wasn't Eli Roth who was invited to come and have a drink in the penthouse. It was some young girl who had made some absolutely awful film. It was dreadful. It was so boring. I can't remember even what it was about. I think she was Japanese, and it was just the most strange load of rubbish. I was forced to watch it at one point, and she willingly went up to the penthouse. So I don't know what went on, but she was looking for funds for her film, and well, she got them. But frankly, it was a complete waste of time because it was a complete flop. But I can't even remember what her name was and in what a film was called. But Eli Roth was the most impressive person I met that day, and he became a great talent. He's if you're into horror. I'm not really a horror film person, but the Cabin Fever was the one that set him off, and I saw that at the first film festival, probably 2002, 3, something like that, whenever it came out. So there we go. Yes, never sit on the fence. You'll get splinters in the bum. Well, that's a very good piece of advice. I totally agree with you. Right. Yes, sex played a major role in casting in Hollywood for many years. Yes, I totally agree with you. Absolutely awful. I think it does to a lesser extent now, but I was reading this morning before we went out. I'm still reading a book which I hadn't finished from last year, which was here, about Robin Williams, who I also knew through this person. And I got to a chapter today where he talks about cocaine and, how he gave up cocaine because he became a father and he thought, well, he better clean up, and how he gave up alcohol for a while. And obviously it didn't last for long. But he said with the cocaine, when you're a famous person in Hollywood, people would come to you and they'd just give it you. He said, I never had to pay for it because those people wanted to control him. And that's why these Hollywood people go mad, because everywhere they go, they get given cocaine. And of course, there was an incident involving him and I've forgotten the name of the actor, another who died in his age 30, I think. And he went to the Chateau Marmont to meet the guy. And Robert De Niro was meant to be there as well, but Robert De Niro was too busy with whatever he was up to. And he went to see the man, and well, the man died that night, but he'd left already, and he was questioned by the police, but obviously there was some mad woman who admitted that she was the one that administered the heroin or whatever it was that he died by. So I can't remember the name of the person. It was someone extremely famous, and I've forgotten the name. But I was reading it earlier before we went out to the lunch, and it was an interesting thing. And there we go. The dangers of Hollywood. Hollywood is a place people aspire to, but it's a place that also ends in a lot of tragedy. So many things go wrong in those Hollywood hills. It's not the perfect place that, the dreamland that everybody dreams of being famous, who wants to be in that world, goes to. So it was a very thing. It was John Belushi. Of course it was. Yes, correct. John Belushi. There we go. Have I ever been offered cocaine? I've been offered cocaine. I've never taken it. I don't take drugs. I've not tried cannabis. I haven't tried, I haven't inhaled. I haven't taken cocaine. I've never taken any drugs of that type. I've seen the damage it does. I admit I drink too much, but, that's my choice. Drinking is not a good thing either, but I enjoy what I enjoy. And sometimes, you can become a bit over-dependent on it, and you shouldn't. And I'm not saying that it's right to drink too much, but I think it's better that I stick with alcohol, because mostly it's not that bad for me. But I don't take cocaine. I don't smoke cigarettes, or I haven't had a cigar in years even, but I don't mind a cigar or a cigarette, but I don't like the smell of cigarettes. That's the only problem with them. But I never enjoyed having cigarettes, but I never ever taken. I don't like the smell of cannabis. I don't know how you feel about it, or any other all sorts of strange drugs. No, thank you. I've met many people who are on all sorts of strange drugs, and it doesn't end well. It never ends well. So there we go. I'm not a person who specializes in that area of life. So there we go. Anyway, each to their own. And I'm not saying I would legalize most drugs because I think it's better to get rid of the drug dealer. I think the drug dealer is the evil person, but I'm not into the drugs. But alcohol is a drug, of course. But and I take prescription drugs if I need them or whatever, or a Nurofen or whatever. But I hardly ever have things like that anyway. But no, I really don't like this Ozempic. I think it's a very dangerous thing. I think the people taking that are very stupid because, what are going to be the long-term effects upon them? I think that's not a good idea. All those stupid American doctors who prescribe pills because they get a better percentage if they prescribe pill X over pill Y, and then they get the patients addicted. And well, look how it ended with Michael Jackson, for example. He's another one who was treated badly by a bad doctor, and bad doctors are not good people. Doctors are meant to be good people. There we go. Right, you drink ground coffee. I don't drink coffee. I don't like coffee. It's not good for me. I'm not into coffee. I drink Yorkshire tea. I love Yorkshire tea, like tea used to be, as they say up in Yorkshire. But I'm just not a very good Yorkshire accent. I'm not very prolific in that. But there we go. Right. Sharon looks sick now, wits decrepit. I think you're meaning Sharon Osbourne, are you? Is she the one or somebody else? I'm not sure which one. Yesterday, I think, was the birthday of not Ronnie Wood. It may have been Ronnie Wood's birthday, but I thought it was the birthday yesterday of the late Charlie Watts because Mick Jagger wished him a happy birthday. So there we are. I've got a call coming in, which I'm going to have to try and reject, from Alexis Parr of the Daily Mail, who's a good friend of mine. I don't know whether she's watching this program or whatever, but I will call her back later. She's a lovely lady and writes great articles. Make sure you read Alexis's articles. She's a very good journalist. Also Richard Kay, who I get on very well with, a lovely man. I speak with him quite often as well from the Mail. There are good people on lots of publications. And, as I was saying yesterday, the Jeremy Bamber campaign, who I explained the story to my Dutch friends because they don't know much about British news today. They were fascinated to hear about the situation with Jeremy, and as a result of the New Yorker doing Heidi Blake doing a thing. She's going to be doing a podcast, as I said yesterday. Her 18,000 word article has changed the agenda, as has The Guardian, and also sorry, I'm getting messages as well. Sorry, I do apologize. It comes up even on this computer I borrowed. It's now I've got this WhatsApp thing on it. It's now bombarding me. Right. Anyway, yes. Sorry, I've been distracted. I will say, now the Daily Telegraph, the Guardian, the Mirror, it's a huge array of things that have got interested in Bamber because of this New Yorker. Well done to the campaign team on that front. It can change a thing. And we had this conversation at lunch today about TikTok. They knew a lot because they've got children, and they said TikTok is in Amsterdam, where they have another home. They said we walk past a bar and suddenly there's a crowd, and we think why, and the children say, "Oh well, it's because of TikTok, because they put it on TikTok. They've written about it's the best chips or the best Negroni or whatever it may be." And the power of TikTok worked for the Menendez case. The TikTok generation during the lockdowns, people who were not even born when the Menendez were convicted in early on 1990s. These are people who didn't know this case that went back then, but millions of them shared it, and that's why Netflix got interested and made a program. And okay, I don't agree with everything that was in that Netflix program, but Cooper Koch, the actor who played one of the brothers, he's now in touch with Lyle, and he's supporting them. And the Kim Kardashian wouldn't have come out of the woodwork and supported them, and all the rest of it. And look at the difference it's made. They've now been, their sentence has been commuted to a different level, and they should have been paroled in 2016 on that basis. So the power of these different mediums can be utterly amazing. You've just got to be able to press the button at the right time, and that's a very interesting thing. And we debated that at lunch, and we had quite a long talk about the justice system in the Netherlands, and it's quite different to the British system. And I don't know what much of you know about the Netherlands, but they've had a lot of political change in recent coming months, so it's going to be it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because obviously the whole political system of Europe is changing, and the whole system of Britain is changing, and what's coming next, God only knows. God help us all. I think all we can do is drink more gin. That's probably what we want. I haven't got a gin in front of me. My glass of wine's about to run out. I've got some whiskey here, but not much. So I may well pour myself a little glass of J&B to keep me going for the rest of this program. The last of the bottle. There we go. That's the end of that one, with a bit of water. So that's the end of that. And yes. Right. Okay, so have we any more questions? We're nearly at an hour into this program. We could do a quiz even, if you would like a quiz. If anyone would like a quiz, please tell me now. So I can do a quiz. I'm sorry I haven't really had any particular thing to say about the Madeleine McCann case, because I haven't really been following all these live updates today because I've been driving up and down mountains. So I do have an excuse in that regard, but we do get rather delayed with certain visits, only for one glass of wine. But I don't get the time to do all this. At least I didn't have to water the garden today because the rain has done the job for me. So. And our lovely friend last night, he sorted out paying the water bill, and because the French, you can't really do much unless you speak French, and they don't deal with the internet with water, but everything else is very easy with the internet. Joanna, this is on tonic water, but well, cheers to you. Here's a whiskey with a bit of water. Just what I needed at the end of a day. And I'm going to have a nice early night tonight, so we won't let the bugs bite, because all the dreadful insects are biting my hands. They are a complete liability, these damn insects. As bad as the midges in Scotland, but they seem to go for my left hand. They prefer my left hand to my right hand. They don't bite my right hand for some reason. I don't know what that's all about. It's always the left hand they go for first. Very odd. Don't know why. Right. Cats hate plant. Try cat mint. I don't know what cat mint is. Oh, try. Well, we have mint in the garden, but it's natural mint that's growing. I've been growing mint for just to use in cooking and whatever, or making things. We've got all sorts of things. I've got garlic growing in the garden. I've got onion and chives. I'm trying to grow, and we'll see what happens. I don't know whether it'll work. Sorry, the light is going completely bonkers. I'll move it that way. That's a bit better. I do look a little bit like Donald Trump, but not quite as bad yet. But I do sit outside an awful lot, so I do have slightly the Donald Trump look. But there we are. Right, and the insects are now coming inside. I probably should have closed the door, which would have been a good idea. Let's try and do that, because it will only encourage more of them. So the door is now closed, thank goodness. The poor little mini Thatcher will have to stay outside because it's got its little shelter, and I'll take it a bit more food when we finish this little broadcast, because it's probably asleep by now because it's getting dark. So as long as it hasn't run off, there we go. Yes, I do use the sunscreen. Yes, I do put that on. Yes, thank you for the suggestion, Lois. Lois is a lovely lady who helps along with Keely. Very nice of you both to be here. Right, okay, lighting is good. Well, it's improving because it's getting dark now, but then when it gets properly dark, it ends up looking even more ridiculous. But there we are. So, yes, so, right, next, would you like a quiz? Are you ready for a quiz? What do I think of Ian Bailey? Please remind me, who is Ian Bailey? I'm probably having a senior moment because I've forgotten who's Ian Bailey. I don't know. Was Ian Bailey Bailey? Was he the man involved in Sophie Toscan de Plantier? I can't remember the name of the man, the Englishman who was accused of being the killer. Was he called Ian Bailey, or is that someone else? Right, I don't remember. Right. Yes, he was. Okay, well, I have listened to the podcast by Ian Bailey. I recommend you all try it. You can find it on the old Spotify. I don't know what it's called, but Ian Bailey was a man who was an English journalist. He was very eccentric. He had a very strange relationship with his wife, and he was very violent. And he was known for being, this kind of weirdo that wandered around in the middle of the night and wore long coats and very eccentric. And he definitely he moved to Ireland, and he lived near this poor lady, Sophie Toscan de Plantier, who was a very wealthy lady who had a holiday home in France. She had a strange relationship with her husband, but and her sister, I recently saw in a photograph. I can't remember who it was with. It was with somebody rather famous. They were quite a grand family, these Toscan de Plantiers. Anyway, she was tragically murdered at her holiday home, and the prime suspect was this man, Ian Bailey. And Mr. Bailey was sought to be extradited to France, but Ireland would not extradite. So he was able to stay in Ireland until his death, but he died last year. And my friend Nicola Tallant from the Sunday World, the Irish publication, and she does great work on particularly the Kinahan crime family and all of that. she spent time visiting Mr. Bailey, and I've listened to a lot of what she's had to say. Mr. Bailey, Ian Bailey, was clearly a very sick of mind man, and um, he was never ever put in prison or anything else. But there were all sorts of things that went on, and it's all very, very odd, the case. Um, Let me spend a bit of time doing more research, and I will bring it up. I will write it down. Ian Bailey, yes. Um, I did get the right name, so that's amazing. Um, yes, yes, Mr. Bailey. I don't know. There was something very wrong about him, but the sad thing here is, Sophie Toscan de Plantier had a son, and they never got justice for the child, for the death of their mother. The child never got justice for the death of his mother, and now Bailey's dead. It's all kind of gone cold. Will they ever prove it was him? Was it him? I don't know, but I think all the evidence points towards him because he was completely psychotic and he'd been up all night, and there was something to do with him staying up all night to write an article. And it was, where was he at a certain time? And the wife said certain things, and da 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 da. And then obviously there was problems in that marriage, and he had a reputation, so he could be the patsy, but you never know. Right. Okay. Well. Right. Right. Okay. I don't know who Gemma O'Doherty, who wrote an article. I don't know. There's many, many things about Sophie Toscan de Plantier. I'm just going to move to a different window and put in Ian Bailey, and I can tell you the name of the podcast, and then you can listen to him talking. It's called Ian Bailey in His Own Words. The name of the podcast is Ian Bailey. There are 3 episodes, and he put it up in 2023. It's on Spotify. So if you'd like to listen, it's on Spotify. I don't know what else. It could be on all sorts of other things as well, but other channels are available, as they tend to say. Have I been to Cork? No, I've never been to Cork. I'd like to go to Cork. It would be nice one day. You love an Irish accent. Well, he's not got an Irish accent. He's English. So I think he originally was in Bristol or Gloucestershire or somewhere like that. He was a journalist. He became disaffected. He ended up running a market stall. I don't know what he sold. Probably some junk or other. He was completely nuts by the sound of him. Yes, Ian Bailey. Let me look. Ian Bailey. He was so the murder occurred in 1996 outside County Cork, of course. Yes, where we just talked about. Holiday home at Tormore, Galeen. And the suspect, Ian Bailey, was born in Manchester. He was a freelance journalist. He sometimes used the name, I don't know how you pronounce it, it's an Irish name, Eoin, Eoin Bailey. He was a fish factory worker. He had held a market stall selling pizzas and poems. Can you imagine all this? He's all over the place, isn't he? He was convicted in murder in absentia in Paris in 2019 and sentenced to 25 years in prison. He won a legal battle against extradition, and then he died on the 21st of January 2024. He had a cardiac arrest outside his home in Bantry, which is when he lived by the time he died. Yes. After his death, they did do a search warrant of his they took all the things from his flat to see if they could use the DNA. But we'll come to him on another occasion. Um, I did enjoy listening to his podcast because I'd spoken with this lady, Nicola Tallant, about the case, and I've read quite a lot about it. But I enjoyed it because I thought it was just so strange that it's rather like the podcast I listened to about this Marion Barter, the lady who vanished, and that's a good one. It's too long. This lady that vanished, who vanished. It's all about an Australian woman who came to Britain and nobody knew why she did, and the daughter's been trying to find her, and it goes on and on and on. But it becomes quite fascinating to hear the mind of someone like this, who clearly wants to get his rant out, but he doesn't really tell the truth. And it makes you think about people who are very deceptive, and it's very, very fascinating. I found the whole thing, if you're interested in true crime, it's a definite must listen. So I recommend it. Do I watch Sonia Poulton? She was quite rude to me once and some kind of thing. I don't care for her. Um, I think I think she's got her opinions and she's entitled to her opinions, but I don't particularly think she's that fascinating. She reminds me of that awful lady who's rude about Jeremy Bamber, that awful Carol Ann Lee. She's got the same kind of approach to dealing with a story. I don't think she has the integrity of many others. I'm not a fan of Sonia Poulton, though. I won't be listening to her. She's kind of a Katie Hopkins type mouthy sort. I don't really care for such people. There we go. Right. You like Irish accents, but you like both Irish accents, but you like a southern one. Okay, Miss Marple. There we go. Yvonne loves Liam Neeson. Well, of course, Liam Neeson lived in the Godfrey or the Godfreynet, where I've been today. The Godfreynet. There we go. He used to live there, and I did get to know Liam Neeson's son for a while, because one of my friends took him to Arizona to try and dry him out in the special clinic. A wonderful guy called Topes Calland, who deals with wayward children of very rich people. He flies them in private planes and takes them off to Arizona and shoves them in a tent in the desert, and well, they can't get anything there, can they? So it's a much better way of giving somebody a short, sharp shock, precisely. Gosh, I nearly slurred my words there. That's the kind of, I couldn't be doing whatever it is, that thing, abracadabra type thing on a, when you've had a drink, I've not had much to drink, to be honest, but there we are. So anyway, we've talked a lot about drink tonight, and that's been very interesting. And we will talk about Ian Bailey again and poor Sophie Toscan de Plantier. I feel very, very sorry for the son of Sophie Toscan de Plantier, and I can't remember who I saw in a photograph. It was a photograph I saw the other day, and it was said Toscan de Plantier, and it was obviously her sister, or well, it couldn't have been her sister. It probably was her husband's sister or something. But these Toscan de Plantiers seem to have, their fingers in many, many pies. I'll just have another quick look at the little page I've quickly opened. Yes, she married this man. She was a television producer. I don't know. It doesn't say much about the Toscan de Plantiers, so it's all about her rather than. I'll have to look into it, but the Toscan de Plantiers were certainly very grand people. That's for sure. The family, so they had influence, and she married into them. But she was a television producer herself, and she fell in love with Ireland and had this little cottage, and She was murdered with a breeze block or something. She was bashed to death. It was a very horrible death. And she was in her dressing gown, and there were all sorts of bizarre things to do with the story. I'll look into it. I'll come back to you. But I recommend you listen to the Ian Bailey podcast because the man is completely mental, but he's dead now. He was convicted. He was sentenced to 25 years in jail in absentia because he could not be extradited because the Irish government wouldn't allow it. So the French believe him to be the murderer and they convicted him, but he lived the rest of his life a free man. So we will probably never know the truth of who actually really killed Sophie Toscan de Plantier. And, it was 1996 and people forget. It's rather like, with other cases. When time passes, it's like the Diane Jones murder, the poor lady who was the Jaguar XJS, who was murdered in a car park, and her children keep trying to bring it up, and this was in West London, and the poor lady just went out, but she'd been taking out £10,000 in cash, and she hadn't told anybody about this, and she was seen in the car with somebody, and the car was swerving over the road, and then they ended up in a car park, and then someone found her dead bludgeoned to death in the car park. It was a very strange case of a very middle class lady, and her children never got to see justice yet. So their mother, they probably never will. But with new techniques, this is the interesting thing with true crime. It's like with the Madeleine McCann case now. They've got a new radar system that can go 15 foot under the ground, so they don't have to dig up everything, and they only dig up if they find something that sounds like it needs to be dug up. So it makes solving crime easier. And like with, Kerry Danes, the amazing lady who has all sorts of scientific methods of solving crime, and the soil scientists who came up with all the soil recovery things. It's changed crime. It was like at the time with Dr. Buck Ruxton in Lancaster in the 1920s or the 1910s. I can't remember. It was down to new techniques that caught him out because he was a doctor and he knew how to get rid of evidence. So he chopped the fingers off and he chopped everything off, and he was clever, but he wasn't clever enough. And then his big mistake was he wrapped everything in the local newspaper. And then he took it to Scotland thinking, I can get rid of it. Well, the local newspaper was only available in certain places. And because of the way the bodies had been destroyed, they said this must be a person skilled as a surgeon or a doctor. And that narrowed it down, and there was all sorts of things. So, look at the case of Dr. Buck Ruxton. That was a long time ago. But if you want to commit a crime, and I'm not encouraging you to, and please don't, I am certainly not encouraging you, be clever. If you want to commit a murder, you've got to be, you've got to be a psychopath to want to commit a murder in the first place, but, or you've got to be very angry about something. But that makes you still a psychopath, in my view. But you have to have a plan. You can't do crimes of passion, which was what happened with Dr. Buck Ruxton. He was sick of his wife. He thought she was having an affair, so he killed her, and then he killed the maid. And, it was right next to where I went to school. It was in the local square. And this building, every time I walked past it, I was got a chill down my spine. It's beautiful Georgian square. It's a lovely place, but a bit as a building. But, he lived there, and he was a very, very evil man. He was, of course, hanged, and he deserved it. But Dr. Buck Ruxton, there's another case I can talk about another day, but I know quite a lot about Dr. Buck Ruxton. the the evil doctors. I could do an evening of evil doctors. Harold Shipman. My granny had a cleaner who eventually went to live in the town where he was the doctor. She left wherever my grandmother lived and went to live there. And he was one of the lucky few that he didn't kill, because he killed hundreds. He was prolific, and he always liked the old ladies. But he only got caught because he never ever did it before. One time there was a mayor of the town who, she was rich, so he decided he'd forge a will. He hadn't done that before, so maybe that was his cry for help. I don't know. Maybe he wanted to stop. But that's how he got caught. He didn't get caught because everybody knew that this man was a respectable pillar of the community, lovely local doctor. In the past, before he'd moved to there, he'd been a doctor and he had been a drug addict, and he would get prescribing himself things, and he had been a bit carried away. But by then, he'd become Mr. Respectable. But also the case of the doctor in Eastbourne. What was his name? Doctor. And I've got a poem about him somewhere. I hope I wrote about it in my publication. Doctor, I will read you the poem. He was in Eastbourne, this doctor. I can see if I can find it. Just a minute. And then we'll have a quiz. I'll just read you the poem about... He had fat fingers, this doctor. That was what he was known for. He had porky fingers. And he got away with it for a very, very long time. He was a nasty, nasty piece of work. And yes, what was the name of him? Yes, the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. Well, that's a debate for another evening. I've spoken with Andrew Gold about this before, who does lots of podcasts. I haven't been on his podcast, and a man called Dr. Dess, who's a man I know who worked at Broadmoor. He was a psychiatrist there. The Porky Fingers, John Bodkin Adams. Right, okay. Well, unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this up. It doesn't seem to be wanting to work. John Bodkin Adams poem. Yes, Doctor. I think it was all about right. Yes, he was a very unpleasant little man. Well, he wasn't little; he was quite fat, actually, and large. I suppose I don't know how tall he was, but right. Okay. Well, it doesn't seem to be working, so unfortunately, I can't give you the poem. So we'll have to forget the poem for tonight, but there we go. But, it was all about in Eastbourne, the widows and how they would come to him. And if they had a Rolls Royce, he would relieve them of their life, basically. The wealthy were killed, widows. It was mainly widows he was into. Keeley likes Andrew Gold, yes. He's an interesting character. I've met him a couple of times at this crime conference, and yes, he's a pleasant gentleman. He's done some bizarre things. He's been involved with all sorts of cults, and some of his views are interesting, and some of them are not to my liking. But he's written a very successful book, so there we go. Anyway, right. I think it's time we did a quiz. Lois says he has good guests. I hope that this quiz is not one we've done before, because I've only got two of them in front of me that I can reference, because we haven't had time to write any quizzes for a couple of days. I'm halfway through another one, but I haven't had any time to do it today. So, okay, are we ready for a quiz? Okay, who's ready for a quiz? Are you ready? Yes. Right. Okay, with which sport is Jofra Archer associated? Jofra Archer. It is not dogging. No, it's not horse racing. It's not darts. It's not golf. Wits End gets the point. It is, of course, cricket. Wits End. 1 point to Wits End. So we are at our wits' end, are we, Wits End? So we've got our cricket end. Yes, we're at the end of the cricket pitch. So there we are. He's a Barbadian English cricketer, right-armed fast bowler, and he plays for Sussex. Okay. With which pandemic was Eat Out to Help Out associated? Eat Out to Help Out. Miss Marple gets the point. Of course, it was COVID. It was COVID-19, yes. 50% off food scheme, restaurants, and of course it was to do with Rishi Sunak. Dishy Rishi, as he called himself. So, next question. Which firm manufactures the car, the Phantom 8? It debuted in 2017. Which firm manufactures the Phantom 8? Joyce Grove gets the point. Well done, Joyce. It is, of course, a Rolls-Royce. So there we go. What is NAG an acronym for? Oh, sorry, WAG. Sorry, not NAG. WAG. Well, they could be NAGs as well, but what is NAG? WAG an acronym? WAG. WAG. Right. The person who's got it correct first in the right format is David, because it's wives and girlfriends. Other people have said wife of footballer, but it's actually wives and girlfriends. David gets the point. David, right, okay. David gets the point. Well done to David. Of course, it's footballers' wives, but it is an acronym for wives and girlfriends. So we have to have the correct answer. Okay, who founded the Daily Express in broadsheet form in 1900? Who founded the Daily Express in broadsheet form? Because it was originally a broadsheet. It wasn't a tabloid. Now it's a tabloid. It wasn't Lord Beaverbrook. No. Miss Marple, it was later sold to Lord Beaverbrook in 1916, but he did not found the paper, no. It wasn't Rupert Murdoch, because he was not alive in 1900. Right, have we any more attempts at an answer? Who founded the Daily Express in 1900 in broadsheet format, before it became a tabloid? Of course, my great uncle was sports editor of the Daily Express, and he was in the Munich air disaster, and he rescued many players. That was when the Daily Express was still a popular paper in tabloid format. What else can I tell you about the Daily Express whilst you try and answer? It was not Robert Churchill. It wasn't Lord Harvey or Lord Henry. It wasn't Ivor Biggin. No, it wasn't Janet Evans. Janet, to her credit, Janet was not getting weights and measures into her little dirty bar in South Kensington back in 1900 because she wasn't alive. She's still a Conservative councillor, as repugnant as that is. Horrible, horrible woman. We don't like Janet Evans on this channel. No, we don't like Claire Mandel, who also is a mean person when it comes to beverages. We don't like Anthea Turner. We don't like Cilla Black, and I've now named The cat, the evil cat, is called Scylla White in her honor because it's white and you all wanted it called Scylla. Williams Evan gets it right. Well done to Williams Evan. Of course, the answer was Sir Arthur Pearson, 1st Baronet. So Sir Arthur Pearson sold to Lord Beaverbrook after he lost his sight. He went blind, so he couldn't run the paper. He didn't want to work, and he sold it. And the Daily Express became, far bigger than the Daily Mail was for a long while. But then it went into decline, and it's not really as successful as it once was. The old paper. So it's a great shame that the Daily Express went downhill, in my view. Okay, which curious raffle company alongside Bono is associated with Pope Francis and the auction of a Lamborghini Huracan in September 2020? Which Joyce Grove gets the second point. Joyce Grove goes into the lead. Well done to Joyce. You are correct. It is Omaze. So the dodgy raffle company, which I'm doing a lot of work on. They claim $2 million was raised. Others say far less was raised. So, okay, what does the word crapulous mean? Crapulous. Carapulous. Coined in 1530. What does it mean? It's nothing to do with lavatories, no. Because Thomas Crapper came later, so this was 1530. It's a totally different meaning. Denise Richards, I will allow it. The effects of alcohol, yes, it's given to excess in drinking or eating. So Denise Richards gets the point. Well done, Denise. Well done, Denise Richards. You're having the point. So a point to Denise Richards. Okay, right. Okay, next question. For which tea room is Harrogate best known? We talked about this today. It connects with Taylors of Harrogate and Yorkshire Tea. What is the name of the tea room? A very famous tea room. Sarah Havison gets it immediately. Well done, Sarah. It's, of course, called Betty's Tea Room. People queue up by the bucket load around the corner and down the hatch. And there's also one in Ilkley, which is a place I lived briefly for a while long ago in West Yorkshire. So yeah, I don't know. They probably have others as well, but the Ilkley is a smaller one than the Harrogate is the main one. But of course, Taylors of Harrogate make Yorkshire tea like it used to be. So, our next question. In which area of London is the delectable River Cafe, one of my favorite restaurants, one of the best restaurants ever, restaurants situated? Where is the Ruth Rogers' Italian restaurant with admittedly crazy prices, but it's my mother's and sister's go-to place. And we had a lovely lunch there a couple of years ago. And it's an absolute glory to go to and beautiful. And they've just opened a small one. Which area? Denise Richards gets it. Well done, Denise. So Denise is in joint first place. It's, of course, in Hammersmith. It's a terrible place to get to, but it's a lovely place once you get there. So I say it's worth the journey. And the food is superb. But you go in the winter when you can have the set menu, because they have the set menu in the week and it's much cheaper. But in the summer, they don't do that because, quite frankly, everybody wants to go there because it's got, outsiders sitting and the doors are all open. And it's a very jolly, lovely place. And you get a lot of famous faces. And I've been to a wonderful party there once. That was another story for another night. But there we go. Okay. Where is the best known place for finding Barbary apes? Where will you find a Barbary ape? It's not in Peckham. Miss Marple gets a second point. So Miss Marple is now joint first with Denise and Joyce. So we've got three of you in the leading pole position, so to speak. Of course, it was Gibraltar on the Upper Rock Nature Reserve. In Gibraltar, you find those things. I've never been to Gibraltar, but I believe if you go, you can have all sorts of interactions with those things. Okay, what percentage approximately does collagen make up of the body? How much is the percentage of your body made up of collagen? Bones, muscles, connective tissue. What percentage? It's not 11, it's not 10, it's not 70, it's not 13. Dixie is close with 30. Yes, I will accept Dixie's answer because you are close. I said approximately. Dixie can have the point, and you put a new addition to the quiz. It is 33%, so you were pretty close. Okay, what is the name of the aeroplane used by the President of the USA? Well, it's a very easy question. If you don't get this, I did try out my quizzes on the people today, and they found some of my questions a little difficult. But there we go. Miss Marple now is back in the lead with 3 points. It is Air Force One. Of course, we have the new controversy of Donald Trump accepting a freebie, a £300 million jet. Very naughty. But quite frankly, okay, it could be a bit of bribery, but it's you may as well get a free plane if you can get a free plane. Why not? But what goes with it? But Donald Trump is corrupt anyway, so let's be honest. It's whether he'll probably take it with him when he leaves. So it doesn't really matter if he has it because he's so greedy and grasping. He'll probably just take it with him if he's still alive. Because him and Sleepy Joe, they're both a bit old, and quite frankly, they're both completely nuts. So there we go. Anyway, right. How many calories does a medium-sized banana contain? How many calories? A medium-sized banana, approximately. It's not 130. It's not 90. Miss Marple gets a 4 point. It is about 100, and you get it correct. You bang on the nail. Well done. So, right, next question. Whose nickname is the Naked Chef? What person in the TV cooking world is called the Naked Chef? Joyce Grove gets a point, another point. So you're now in second place with 3 points. It is, of course, Jamie Oliver. What is the Major Tim Peake associated? Major Tim Peake, what is he associated with? Right. I can accept Sarah Haverson's answer, so you get a second point, Sarah. It is space travel. He's an astronaut. He's a superstar of space travel. That's what they call him. Where was Britain's first citrus grove planted in 2025? Where did the first citrus grove in Britain get planted in 2025? It wasn't Sussex. No, it wasn't Italy. It's Britain's first. It's not in Italy. It's not in Kent. No, it's not Peckham. It's not Cornwall. It's not Spain. Spain is not in Britain. It's not in Edinburgh. It's Matt Grant gets your first point for the night. Matt Grant, you're not doing so well tonight, but you're getting a first point now. So now you're doing better. So well done to you. Of course, it was the Isle of Wight, 30 trees. It's 5 degrees warmer, 5 degrees C warmer than the rest of the UK, the Isle of Wight. I didn't know this. 4 varieties have been planted. So there we go. In which business sector does Lidl, we've talked about Lidl tonight already, and Aldi, operate? Which sector do they operate? Matt Grant gets the point. Well done. You're speeding up, Matt. You've got 2 points now. But Miss Marple has got 4, so you've got to catch up. Okay. Right. Who painted the girl with a pearl earring? Who painted the girl with the pearl earring? And of course, I was involved in a liqueur of the same name as the name of the painter. Lois gets the point. Well done, Lois. Lois Petzold. Of course, it was Vermeer. My liqueur was made with vodka, and well, it wasn't my liqueur. It was the Californian billionaire I was involved with. It was made with vodka and chocolate and cream, and people loved it over ice cream. But it was a disaster. It was a terrible business because Bailey's had the market, even though Bailey's is full of chemicals and is an absolutely disgusting drink. We tried to counter that, but we didn't get very far. But people did love it over ice cream, but the problem was it had to be shaken in the bottle, and most people didn't understand this, so it separated, which wasn't a good idea. There were many problems with the drink. Anyway, but it was very popular with many people, including Cherie Blair and Princess Michael of Kent, who became addicts. They were very into it. They used to have lots of cases of it delivered. Even Alan Titchmarsh was a great fan, and all sorts of people. We had loads of super fans. We did have a lot of people who loved the stuff. They didn't have to pay for it, of course, and that's probably why. Sorry, there's an insect. There's a dreadful bloody insect flying around. These mosquitoes here are bad. Who starred in the 1954 film An Inspector Calls? There are multiple options, but I'll take whoever gives me the first name that is relevant. No. Not Ronnie Cray, for goodness sake. An Inspector Calls. Miss Marple gets it, Alistair Sim, though you don't spell Alistair correctly, but you're nearly spelling it correctly. Miss Marple can have a fist point because of Alistair Sim. Obviously, J.B. Priestley, Jane Wenham, directed by Guy Hamilton. Okay, the penultimate question. The final question. The 20th question is, in which county is Scratchy's Bottom located? Giles Brandreth's book has a whole list of offensive, what could be considered offensive place names. They're quite funny, and I've got a list of Kent's weirdest names I also consult. Right, so no. Right, the first person to get it correct, which gives you the winning point with 6 points, Miss Marple. You are the winner of the quiz. Of course, Scratchy Bottom is in Dorset. It's one of my rude Britain questions. People like the odd place names, like Squeeze Gut Alley in Whitstable and things like that. Supposedly, Scratchy's Bottom is a clifftop valley between Durdle Door and Bats Cave. It came second after Shitterton in a place called Shitterton, which is a very unfortunate name, in a 2012 poll for Britain's worst place name by Find My Past. It was the location for the opening scene in the 1967 film Far From the Madding Crowd, in which Gabriel Oakes' sheep are driven off a cliff by his sheepdog. I say charming, not. What a horrible thing for it to be famous for. So anyway, well done to Miss Marple, our winner. I'm going to put a tick through it. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to have to write more quizzes because I am getting behind. I'm running out of quizzes. I've never been down to one left. So I better keep that one in case there's any problems. So we better not do any more quizzes. We've done 1 hour and 43 minutes. Would you like some more questions before we go? And then that will be that. So, it's gone dark outside. I've got to go and check on the old sport little creature. God knows what it's up to. It's probably how it got all the way around to the other side of the house. God only knows. And then it comes back. So naughty Minnie Thatcher. It's got the spirit of of Margaret. So, and it clearly would have probably loved a mini cheddar, but it can't. Well, it wouldn't be able to consume one because it's not mush. All it can eat is mush. So there we are. Right. Okay. So before we go, have you any more questions? So, how does someone become a lord? Well, the process of becoming an aristocrat is about to change. You don't become an aristocrat to get a peerage. They're going to get rid of the 92 peers that are left. They're all about to be kicked out. It will all be appointed by politicians. So the whole process is now going to become more about how many favors you do for Keir Starmer or Boris Johnson or whoever happens to be prime minister. And I think that's a great shame, because I think a lot of these people who have been hereditary peers have contributed a huge amount to our society. And kicking them out, it was Tony Blair's grand project at the beginning, and Keir Starmer is finalising the project. It is not a good thing for the UK, in my view. But people don't like the fact that just because you're born with something, you can sit in the House of Lords and get your £331 a day allowance and all the rest of it. But lots of those people have experience in good areas. Okay, some of them are a complete nightmare and have been completely awful and useless, and many of them just don't show up and whatever. But look at what Boris Johnson did. Lord Lebedev of the Russian Federation. He put him in there just because he owned the Evening Standard, and he wanted him on his side. He turned up for 1.35% of the sittings. He spoke four times, and he voted 0 times. So what is the point of giving that revolting man a position in the House of Lords? It's disgraceful. Lord Bamford, Carol Bamford, call me Carol. He's quit the House of Lords, as has Jeffrey Archer and all the others, because they don't want their tax affairs looked into. So, they get given this little title so they can lord it up over other people. It's good for booking restaurants, but that's about all they care about. That's what these people are into. And they don't do anything to contribute to the democracy. And I don't like this way the system has developed. So, no, I'm not a great fan of House of Lords reform in the way it has been done. I understand that, things change, but why don't we reform the House of Commons first? Ban them from having expenses. Make them stay in a hotel. Buy a hotel building. And if they want to stay somewhere, don't give them a duck house and don't give them a sofa, and don't pay for their iPad, and don't pay for this and don't pay for that. These greedy people, they don't go into politics for the right reasons. So this is why people hate politicians. Look at this Lindsay Hoyle jetting all over the world, taking his wife. Why should we be paying for his wife to fly all over the world? She's not a politician. What does she contribute? What does she add to the thing? He can go by himself. If you work in an office and you have to go on a business trip, do you get to take your wife? No. Nobody says, oh, bring your wife, and oh, bring your kids as well, and bring your 4 staff. Yes, he can take his staff, some of them. He doesn't need 4 staff to travel to go to a conference. Can't he speak for himself? Can't he open an email or whatever he has to do? Stupid Lindsay Hoyle. He is one of the worst. He's worse than Bercow in this sense. Bercow was considered bad, but this Lindsay Hoyle, he takes the bloody biscuit. It's an absolute outrage. There we go. What is a duck house? It's a home for ducks. This little Seagull could have done with one on the sea. It would have been good if we could have tied up a duck house down here on the little pontoon, and it could have lived in it. And it may have lived instead of being drowned as a result of the evil Germans who threw it in the sea. I'm very upset about that, the way they did that. And they're telling me off for overfeeding things. They weren't very nice. I'm not very impressed with them. But they happen to own that boat called Invictus. Says a lot about them. You know, they probably got something on with Prince Harry. That's probably what they're into. Absolutely odd. Where are the Douglas Hurds and Ken Clarks and John Smiths? Well, sadly, John Smith died and is buried on Iona, the place I talk about with such fondness all the time. I love Iona, and you know what I remember seeing him once on Iona, because we were there at the same time, and you know, he was a prime minister of this country. Probably he would have probably been a very good Labour prime minister. I'm not saying there are many good Labour prime ministers. I'm not averse to Tony Blair in many senses, other than this silly war, which he shouldn't have brought. But as another kind of prime minister, he was fabulous. He was one of the best. He was the natural heir to Thatcher. But I know many of you will go, but he wasn't Margaret, but Margaret was, of course, the best. But many of you hate her as well. So there we go. Right. Okay. Don't mention the war. Well, there we go. William Hague cut costs by sharing his hotel rooms with others. That did occur, yes. So, and I know lots of allegations were made, and there's lots of allegations made against all sorts of people. And that's why many people don't go into public life, because, quite frankly, you can't have a private life if you're in a public position. So there we go. Right. Okay. Should we have given Hong Kong away in the way that we did? No. And Chris Patten was, I think Chris Patten was a very good final governor of Hong Kong. His daughter's lovely people, very nice family. You know, he's been very good in all the roles he's done, and I respect Chris Patten hugely. I think Chris Patten was a very good man, but he didn't have any choice in the matter, and you know, he just had to do the final handover, and that wasn't his fault. So I don't blame him. Why did Liz Truss only last 2 weeks? She didn't last 2 weeks. She lasted 49 days, actually. Williams Evan. But you know, Lettuce lasted longer than her, so she's pretty much goes down in history as one of the worst prime ministers this country's ever had, and one of the shortest ever lived, ever. I think she may top the list as the shortest ever prime minister. She crashed the economy. She tanked the country in 49 days. She was an absolute disgrace. And she gets £50,000 for a speech. Who on earth wants to listen to that mad, mad woman? She's like Katie Hopkins on crack. She's dreadful. Get her off the screen. We don't need to hear from Liz Truss ever again. And it's disgraceful that she gets protection for the rest of her life. She gets, you know, all sorts of benefits. She doesn't deserve anything from anybody. Liz Truss is a disgrace. An absolute bottom feeder, yes. That's a correct description, I think. I totally agree with you. You think that William Hague was on crack. I think William Hague had all sorts of other problems, but I don't know. I don't believe he was on that, no. There we go. Liz Truss is a stinker. Yes, I totally agree. She's a total stinker. A nasty, nasty woman. She's a totally embarrassing for the UK. Yes. Was Michael Fallon a safe pair of hands? Not really, no. She's made 20 million, has Liz Truss, supposedly, according to Hatchie. I don't know if that's true, but she's certainly making money. And whether that's correct, I don't know. Michael Gove, you've got views on his drug addiction. Well, I don't like him or his dreadful ex-wife, the horrible, horrible Sarah Vine. Sarah Vineless, spineless Sarah. Jeremy Hunt, well, you know, I think my sister, who worked in the health service, has very strong views on him, and she would change the H to a C. That's how she feels about it, because she had to work through the pandemic and experienced what that man did. Not a nice man. Um, uh, Peter Cook, I don't know what you're wanting to ask me. Your question doesn't make sense. Biscuitec, it doesn't make sense. I don't understand. But I never met Peter Cook, no. Ross, he wasn't actually a terrible minister for defense, says Matt Grant. There we go. I think we're talking about Fallon. Katie Price likes a line or two. I think Katie Price likes anything she can plunder and disgrace herself with. She's an appalling person. No respect for Katie Price. Long ago, I used to say that Katie Price was an achiever. I thought, what amazing that this lady's made all this fortune, but look how she's thrown it all away with all these men and drugs and plastic surgery. She's an absolute awful. What do I think of Fallon in The Archers? Well, she's not having. I haven't listened to tonight's episode, but she's having a very tough time with her husband, the policeman, because he didn't turn up for his birthday party because he had to go to work. So she's not very happy as old Fallon. I'm bored of hearing about him banging on about her tea rooms and all the rest of it. I don't find her a very exciting character. She doesn't add much. I much prefer hearing Sunny Osmond, who plays Lillian Bellamy, because she loves a bit of gin and she's a bit of fun and she's a bit of a spice, and she's a bit like what's her name in the EastEnders, the Peggy Mitchell character. She's the equivalent. She adds a bit of fun. Though Peggy Mitchell, I'm not really an EastEnders fan, but my friend Tony Discipline was in EastEnders, but he's totally no discipline in my view. He's now a fireman of all things, and well done to him. He's doing great for others, and he's been in a few other programs, but he tends to be a fireman most of the time. And he had a wonderful mobile bar he went around with called the Tipsy Trailer. I think he sold it now, but it was a horse box turned into a bar. So I like people who have a bit of fun. So excellent. Carpet Burns. Yeah, that's what people call the policeman. Yes. Not many people are very great fans of the policeman. It's a bit of a drip, to be honest. Harrison Burns he doesn't really. That's why they sent him off to go on some special mission in Northumberland or something. Will he come back like Shula? Where's Shula? Will Shula ever return to her stables? Shula the vicar, as she now is. But she can't take over the church unless we get rid of the other one, can she? So she won't be coming back to do that. So we won't probably be seeing Shula again, I don't think. Is Peter Mandelston still gay? Well, he's married to his husband, so yes, clearly. And they're both living in Washington, where he's the ambassador, a great friend of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, of course. Shula got God. Yes, she definitely did. After her husband, he seems to have vanished as well. The vet. No one talks about him. His father appears all the time, the busybody, but we don't get in the Archers appearances from his son. I've forgotten his name. Anyway, his son seems to have gone remarkable. They seem to be putting a few characters out to pasture for a little while. I don't know why. I'm not sure, but right. Okay. Nicola Mooney, night, everyone heading to the stretcher up early day and dollar. Well, good night to you, Nicola. Thank you for your participation, and thank you to Keely for moderating here, and Lois. Thank you. You've all been very generous. Do they still show Benny Hill on the TV? They probably do. I don't know. I don't watch television, so I don't know. I don't have television. I do what we've talked about this today. This VPN thing I had doesn't work, so I can't watch any catch up. I'd love to watch this program Gold. It's the sequel to the first series, but I can't watch it because I can't get this V. Maybe it might work on this computer. I could try that. Don't know. We will see. Let's try it out. Maybe that's an idea for something I could do shortly. Right. Okay. Right. You watch YouTube. Well, you're watching me now, so you're very kind. Thank you for watching. It's very, very kind. Ron M. Lois says, I can do detent. I don't know what detent is. The second series of Gold is out already. I believe it's coming very soon. It gets mentioned on Radio 4. I can listen to Radio 4, but I can't watch BBC TV because I don't have my VPN working. I don't know how to make the VPN work, and I am not technical, and I'm useless. You are the best in YouTube, Mr. Steeples. Get back into politics, says Elaine Harvey. I don't think I would want to be in politics, to be honest, because I don't think I'd like to spend time with the likes of Nigel Farage and all those people in that awful chamber if I were to stand for Parliament or something. But there's no election coming up anyway, so I don't think any political party would want me because I'm a little bit too opinionated and I wouldn't do as I was told. So I used to be very involved in the Conservative Party long ago, but the Conservative Party left me. I didn't leave the Conservative Party. So that's how I feel about that. Right. Okay. Right. Well, we've done 2 hours now, so I think I have to go and check on my little Seagull and see what the fledgling is doing. So better check on it. YouTube has great movies for free. Indeed, it does. I've been watching films on YouTube, and of course, Howard's Way and things like that I've watched on YouTube because you can't get it on. Well, you can get it on TV in Britain, but you can't get it on TV anywhere else. So there we go. Was I a fan of the Monty Python's Flying Circus? I don't mind it, but it's not my favorite thing. It doesn't hugely excite me, but I think I preferred the Fast Show and things like that. So they were more for me. I do tend to like Little Britain, which of course is politically incorrect, Keeping Up Appearances, The Wonderful Hyacinth Bucket, The Lady of the House Speaking and all that. There's Catherine Tate, things like Catherine Tate, I wish they would come back. So there we go. Anyway. Right. Okay. You loved the Fast Show. Yes, everyone loved the Fast Show. In my circuit, anyway. A bit of fun. The League of Gentlemen, not so sure. Red Dwarf, never got into that. Right. Okay. It's pronounced bouquet. Well, it's not really. It's bucket, as we all know. So there we go. Psychoville. I don't know what Psychoville was, but I've never heard of it. Blackadder. Okay, but not really for me. Right. Well, that's the end of the whiskey. I would like to thank you all. I know you want a second quiz, but I don't know if I can cope with a second quiz. I think it's probably time that I went to bed because it's been a long, long day, and God knows only what will happen tomorrow. Life is very unpredictable, so I don't know what will come next, but we will see. One Foot in the Grave. My grandfather loved that, but Grandpa Howard, that was his thing. So, he also liked the From May to December, which of course my friend Barnaby, his father Anton Rogers was in. The wonderful Barnaby who used to work with me on the Vermeer liqueur, who's, of course, his father was in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels as the policeman, Anton Rogers, and he was in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and all sorts of things. And his wife, of course, was in an earlier version of Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth Garvey. There we go. And Barnaby is still a good friend of mine to this day, and His parents were both in Midsummer Murders, in fact. I believe they were murdered 4 times, or one of them was, or maybe both of them were, between them were murdered 4 times in different episodes as different things. On one occasion, Anton Rogers was murdered with an asthma inhaler. They put poison in the asthma inhaler. So there you go. There's a strange way of killing somebody. But there we go. So, right. Okay. Well, I'm going to say thank you very much for your lovely presence. And it's been a joy to spend time talking with you. And sorry, excuse me. Good night and good gardening to you all. May you all sleep tight, and may the bed bugs not bite, because here the little critters are floating around. So I don't know what will happen next with the little critters, but I better go and check on this little mini Thatcher and make sure it's behaving itself, because it's probably just run off now it's had its meal. It probably will turn up again tomorrow in the same fashion. It's obviously trying to get some independence in its life. Maybe it's got the same spirit as Margaret Thatcher. Maybe Margaret Thatcher could be in it. Fergie claims the corgis communicate with her through the corgis. The late Queen communicates with her through the corgis. So you never know. It could be Margaret reincarnated. I don't know if that is true, because I'm not really an expert on reincarnation, and I'm not sure if I believe in a reincarnation. But I say thank you very much to you all. Good night, good gardening, sleep in peace, and don't let the bed bugs bite. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Well done, Donnie.
Right.